Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, in preparation for Chag HaShavuos, we're going to take a look at a story of Rebbe Nachman's, but this story is unique amongst the stories. Now, to speak of a story being unique is already a doubled form of uniqueness because Rebbe Nachman's stories were already unique. And to claim a uniqueness within that unique nature and genre of Rebbe Nachman's revelations is already to bring out something different. But the Choikrim that spent a lot of time studying the inner censorship of Breslov and the reason that this story was hidden for so long have also acknowledged the simple truth that of all of the stories and of all of the mysteries, the mystery of this story is one of the biggest ones. To the degree that even at the end of this story, which Rabbeinu told over in between the years of 1804 and 1806, that at the end of the tale, Rabbi Nachman gives two footnotes, two asterisks that follow this tale. The first is that even though the people sitting and listening to the story right now will benefit from it, nevertheless, that's not the main point of it, because there's going to come a time where this story is going to be needed, and this story is going to illuminate those who are not here yet. And Rabbi Nachman has an enigmatic statement where he says, let us just wait and see what comes of this story. So that's the first one. And then the second asterisk is that he made everybody who was there hearing the story take a pact and take an oath of sorts that they wouldn't share the story with anybody who wasn't there. But instead of being very serious about the pact, Rabbi Nachman said, and even if you tell it, I'll still love you, but I'm only going to love you in the way that Heikel is happy. Because Heikel is happy but not really happy, or not really happy but happy. And so too, even if you tell this story, I'll find a place for you in my heart the same way Heikel deals with his relationship with Simcha. The story, Maisa Melechem, the story of bread, or the tale of bread, which is also known as the Maisa of Kabbalah Satorah, is a vision. It's a vision that Rebbe Nachman is clearly describing in an autobiographical way. And for a number of reasons, there was an inner censorship forever at the heart of Breslov amongst the real Talmidim because Rebbe Nachman was not someone who was understood. And Rebbe Nachman didn't make himself easy to be understood, meaning there are certain people who are misunderstood and they say, okay, let me try and make sure that I'm not misunderstood. Rebbe Nachman said, not only am I misunderstood, but you guys don't even understand what you misunderstand about me. And Rebbe Nachman continued with the language and speaking about himself in certain ways that were self-glorifying to the degree that people had a hard time understanding how a tzaddik like Rabbi Nachman could say, Ani nahar hamitaher mikol haktamim, I'm the purifying river that purifies all stains, or chidush kamoni lo haya me'olam, or a novelty quite like me has never been, until we understand that Rabbi Nachman was talking about each and every one of us. When we realized that Rabbi Nachman was just talking about what it means to have a neshama, and that when a person realizes what their neshama is, they can be as self-aggrandizing as the words of the tzaddik are. So then we come to realize that he wasn't being arrogant at all. He was just speaking out the nature of the Jewish soul. And the same is true with this story. This story speaks of another Matan Torah. Not, God forbid, a changing Torah, but another revelation of Torah, which means that something new is being uncovered. To identify oneself as the recipient of a new Kabbalah Satorah is to hint to the fact that the Torah expresses itself throughout history in different ways. And as we know, that there are Chamisha Yechidei Hadoros, there are five tzaddikim who represent particular nodal points throughout the texture and the fabric of history of Torah, where before them it was a certain way and after them it was a different way. And even though before them it was possible to function in that old way, after them it's impossible to function. As Rebbe Nachman said, before the tzaddik, a person doesn't need the tzaddik. After a person becomes aware of the tzaddik, a person needs the tzaddik. So too, there's certain paradigm shifts within the development of Torah, the unfolding nature of the Torah of history and the history of Torah, that represent quantum leaps from one level to a new level. And those Yechidei Hadoros were Moshe Rabbeinu, who gave us the entirety of the Torah, Kabbalah Satorah through Moshe. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who drew down the Torah, the nister of the Nigla, meaning the innermost teachings of the external psukim, the Zohar HaKadosh. Then there was the Arizal who came along to reveal the secrets of Torah. Then the Baal Shem Tov came along to reveal the secrets of Torah, meaning Razin de Razin. And then Rebbe Nachman came along to reveal something new. Rebbe Nachman came to reveal a new way of functioning, a path of imagination, a path of being above and below at once. And so when Rebbe Nachman is talking about being someone who is ready to receive the Torah anew, that means that Rebbe Nachman was fundamentally aware of what his Torah was going to be and the radical shift that his Torah would bring to Jewish consciousness, and the fact that Chidush Kamono Lo Haya Me'olam, and the fact that Basof Kulam Yu Breslov. In the end, everybody is going to be Breslov. Doesn't mean everybody will be a chassid of Rabbi Nachman, nor does it mean that everybody is going to be learning Likutei Maran. But what it does mean is that everybody is going to have to live in accordance with the principles revealed by the Nachal Nevei Makor Chachma. Rabbi Nachman knew. One of the biggest chidushim about Rabbi Nachman throughout is that he knew. He knew what was happening. And Rabbi Nassan, the unique nature of Rabbi Nassan was that he saw this and he said, wait a second, we're all seeing something insane here, but I know that it's not only for us, it's for everything. It's for the entirety of history. And the secret of Ha'esheli Tukar Advias HaMashiach, that there's a light that is kindled by Rabbi Nachman's illumination of what the Torah means, which is drawing down the light of Moshe Rabbeinu. Every one of the five tzaddikim are just new iterations of Moshe Rabbeinu. Rashbi is Moshe, the Arizal is Moshe, the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh is Moshe, Rabbi Nachman is Moshe, we're all Moshe. And so to identify oneself as the recipient of a new Kabbalah Torah is a very startling thing to say, because it positions oneself in a full recognition of who they are and what they are. And again, every Yid has the ability to do this. Every Yid has the ability to realize that I'm being Makabal the Torah anew. But we're going to see that this story speaks of a personal revelation, and we're going to draw out, first there's the telling of the story, and then we'll draw out a small nakuda from the story itself. Story is as follows. Once upon a time there was, and I'm translating as I go. Once upon a time there was a young child who had a grandfather or a great-grandfather who was a tremendous person. Even this young child himself was not a simple thing. And once upon a time he dreamt that his grandfather came to him and he said to him, pay attention to the food that you're going to be eating over the next few days. Pay attention. The language that the story uses is Shayitein Leiv Lehama'achalim Shayochal Hayom. Give attention, give your heart's attention to the things that you're going to eat. He woke up in the morning, and he had already shown himself, and it had already been proven to him that the dreams that he had with his grandfather were true. And he didn't understand what his grandfather was asking of him. He didn't understand what it meant to pay attention with your heart to the things that you're eating today, because according to his estimation, he had already been eating with kavanos properly. So this additional emphasis on a new level of kavana, of nesinas halev, to the things that a person is going to be eating, it was strange to him. And so he went to the mikveh, and he said a few kapitlach of Tehillim with intense kavana, and he davened with intense kavana, and he beseeched and requested from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Hashem should help him understand what his grandfather meant when he said, pay attention to the things that you're going to be eating. After his tefillah, he continued to be bothered. He continued to be affected by the lack of knowledge of what his grandfather meant. And he was exerting himself to such a degree that he laid himself down on the bed and he drifted off to sleep. And once he was in his slumber, his grandfather came to him again in a dream, and he said, I can see that you're bothered about what Nesinas Halev means. I see that you're bothered by this notion of pay attention with your heart to what you're going to be eating. And he says, I'm going to tell you why. They want to give you the Torah today. They want to give you the Torah today. And the Torah is only given to those who eat man. And therefore, because they want to give you the Torah, they want to give you man to eat. And so his grandfather is explaining to him, the reason I said to pay attention to the food that you're going to eat is because in order to receive the Torah, they're going to provide you with man, a certain form of spiritual food that's going to be clarified to the degree that it's really going to prepare you for a Kabbalah Satorah. He woke up and he was bothered again because he understood how big of a thing this was. He began to understand what was going on here. Hit'avim ma'od lahasig zois. And he really, really wanted to make sure that he got this right. Now he knows why he's paying attention, and he really wants to make sure that he gets it right. Because even to eat man is a big thing. To be fed man from Shemayim, that's one thing. But to eat man from Shemayim for the sake of receiving the Torah anew, that's an entirely different thing. And now certainly he needed to really, really, really pay attention to the things that were crossing his face, to the things that he was eating, but he still didn't know what it meant to pay attention. He still didn't know what type of looking was necessary. And he was incredibly bothered by this. V'nizkar, and he remembered that the Medrash says as follows, Yancha v'yirvecha v'yichelcha saman, that prior to eating the man, Chazal tell us that the Jewish people needed to fast, because the food that the Jewish people were regularly eating was food that was devoured by the body and processed and digested through the stomach and the digestive tract. And man was a different type of food. It was an angelic food. It was a celestial food that was not processed or digested in the same way that human beings process. It was a different thing. And in order so that we can go from one level of eating to another, the Jewish people fasted. So he remembered this. He remembered that, there's a fasting. That's why in Megillas Rus there's Vayihi Ra'av Ba'aretz. There's a hunger. There's a fasting prior to receiving the Torah. And so he remembers that they fasted, but then he became bothered by the fact that he didn't fast the day before. He forgot to fast the day before. So what did he do? Because he needed to fast and he wanted to be prepared. So he took medicine. He gave himself some sort of diuretic that made him go to the bathroom, that cleaned out his entire body. An enema of sorts that he took. It was a certain type of medical mixture that would create just complete and utter expression of whatever was within his body, and he would cleanse himself out completely. And he didn't have any compassion on himself whatsoever because he desired so badly to eat this man in order to receive the Torah. And he took this very strong medication, and he spent the entire day and night emptying himself out, to the point that he reached a point where he was as clean as the day that he had come into the world. But then he continued to be bothered by the fact that there was still an irreducible remainder of blood within him that was affected by the food that he had eaten. And he didn't know how to get rid of that. Because when you fast, you cleanse your entire body, but nevertheless, there's still a remainder that remains, and he was bothered. And because he had put in so much effort already, and he was so exhausted as a result of this medical process, that he went again and he laid himself down and he fell into a slumber. But this time he was nim v'loy nim, tir v'loy tir, awake, not awake, in between consciousness. And his grandfather appears to him again and he says, you're bothered now, you're still bothered by this irreducible element of blood that's affected by the old food that you ate. Come with me, let's go to the Nahar Dinor. Let's go to the river that burns away all that is excess. And we'll get rid of that also. And he went with him. And on the way, he saw many, many chidushim, wondrous chidushim. And when he came with his grandfather to the banks of the Nahar Dinor, and he entered into it with him, he was convinced that there would be absolutely nothing that remained of him afterwards. He was convinced that he would disintegrate completely. But nevertheless, he cleansed himself and he came out completely fine. When he left the Nahar Dinor, he saw that the world appeared as if it were a completely new place. And suddenly he woke up. And just like those individuals, when they dream, that last thing that they dreamt is entrenched within their mind so that they think about it when they wake up, so too, when he woke up, he was thinking about what he had dreamt. But when he woke up, he saw that literally the world was an entirely different place. Everything was different. Everything was different. Nothing had changed, but everything was different. And at this point, the table was already set, and there was bread that was placed upon the table. And he went and he washed his hands, and he made the bracha of Al Natilas Yadayim. And he wiped his hands, and when he came closer to the table, he saw that there was no bread whatsoever, but rather there was just a pile of jumbled up letters that were without any order sitting in front of him. And he was so bothered because he had made a bracha levatala. But his grandfather now came to him in a wakeful vision. And he said to him, don't be bothered because this pile of letters demands the bracha of Hamotzi Lechem and Haaretz on them. And he made the blessing and he ate the bread that was the pile of letters. And as long as he saw that there were letters there, he would eat them and he would devour them. And even the parts of letters and the crumbs of letters that remained after eating all of the regular letters, he ate them all up. He devoured everything until there was nothing left. There were no letters left to eat. After eating all of these letters, he opened up his mouth, and all of the letters emerged, now organized in a new fashion in the organized nature of the Asar Sadibros. They all left his mouth. The letters that he ate, they came out of his mouth again. And he saw that within these letters and within these Asar Sadibros were included all of the generations and the interpretations of Torah that would come from those generations, and all that would be created in terms of novelty of Torah from here until the coming of Mashiach. And the Talmidim, when they heard this story, they said to Rabbeinu, they said to the Rebbe, they said, this person you're speaking of, this person who experiences these letters that he's eating, and then spits those letters back out, is he close to here or is he far from here? Is he of this world or is he of somewhere else? And Rebbe Nachman answered, and he said, if you want to spend time examining this and asking me questions, then I'll just deny the whole thing. Afterwards, Rebbe Nachman said as follows, Yesh echad shehu shtayim v'yesh shtayim shehu echad keshehu bekan hu sham gamkein. There's one that is two, and there's two that is one, and when he's here, he's there, and when he's there, he's here as well. And he continued, and he said, I command you to review this Maisa. Review this Maisa because this Maisa is needed for us right now, and it's also needed for the generations that are not here yet. And come and see what's going to become of this remarkable Maisa. And he also warned them very strongly not to tell it over to anybody who wasn't there. But even if you tell it over, I'll still love you, but I'll love you in the way that Chaikel is happy, because his happiness wasn't a full happiness. And he said that anybody who hears this story has the requirement to ensure that they don't share it in a way that it shouldn't be shared. Kacha Maisa. That's the Maisa. There's a person who's searching for Kabbalah Satorah, wants to eat food, ultimately goes through this entire process of refinement, until suddenly the big revelation, the grand revelation, is sitting at a table in his home, looking at a pile of food, looking at bread, and ultimately seeing that it's made of letters. And what's most strange about it is the ending. There's one that is two, and there's two that is one, and when he's here, he's there. When he's there, he's here. So what is it? What is it that Rebbe Nachman was doing for us? And what is it that we need from Rebbe Nachman when it comes to Kabbalah Satorah, when it comes to receiving the Torah anew, each day and on Shavuos especially? For all of the tzaddikim, Kabbalah Satorah is about going up into Shamayim, going up upon the mountain to receive Torah me Shamayim, Torah from Har Sinai. When Moshe Rabbeinu ascends up on Har Sinai, he has to act like the Malachim, because the Torah is a sacred thing. The Torah represents transcendence. The Torah represents unity. The Torah represents goodness and clarity. And so at first, when Rebbe Nachman hears that the Torah is coming for him, that there's a new Torah being revealed to him, so that the only reference points for the Torah was that the Torah is above. The Torah is up there. The Torah is an ideal outside of this world. The Torah is a chachma-dika thing. The Torah is chachma. Yud chachma kaduma. It's up there. Bereshis, b'chuchma. And if it's a chachma thing, if the Torah is a chachma thing, then it's all the way up there, and I have to refine myself. I have to cleanse myself of everything. I have to go through the Nahar Dinor. I have to get rid of every element of what it means to be a human being in order to retrieve the Torah, in order to properly become a recipient of the Torah, someone who receives the Torah. And so at first, when Rebbe Nachman hears that there's going to be a new revelation of the Torah, and that he should give his heart to the things that he's eating, that he should pay attention to the things that he's eating, the first assumption was, okay, I have to be very careful. I have to cleanse myself. I have to eat man. I have to fast. I have to get rid of everything. I have to go through Nahar Dinor. Why? Because that was the assumption forever, that to receive the Torah anew, a person has to become like a malach. A person has to literally become like a malach, where I'm no longer connected to this world, where I can have hispashtas agashmias, where I disconnect myself from all of the things that make me human. And so Rabbi Nachman enters into that path of the Torah of what does it mean to pay attention, to sim lave, to give my heart to what I'm eating? It means to make sure that I don't get stuck in Gashmias, to make sure that I extricate myself and I pull myself out and I climb up the mountain and I become a Malach. And the Baal Shem Tov, his grandfather, who was the previous tzaddik who revealed the Torah, he lets Rabbi Nachman go along with this assumption. He lets Rabbi Nachman go along with this sense. Yeah, cleanse yourself, cleanse yourself, cleanse yourself, cleanse yourself. Nahar din or fast, get rid of all of your physicality. Jump into the Torah as if you're not a human being. Jump into the Torah as if all you want to do is learn the Torah. But then Rabbi Nachman himself begins to understand what the true nature of sim lev lama achalim is. Instead of thinking that the Torah is only a chachma thing, instead of thinking that the Torah is only in Shamayim, what Rabbi Nachman came to reveal, what was unique about Rabbi Nachman, was that he revealed the Torah on the level of Bina. He revealed the Torah of being able to find Hashem in our own experiences, in our own heart, in our own hispodidus, in our own encounter with this world, in our own processing. Unlike other tzaddikim who represent the path of Chachma, which is the bittul within the Torah, and the self-nullification like the Malachim, where I just have to fast myself out of my human condition until I enter into Shamayim. The path of Bina is where a person owns their Yeshus, where a person realizes that, yes, I'm a Yesh. Hashem created me as a Yesh. And because I'm a Yesh, I have to learn how to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I have to learn how to utilize all of myself, all of my experiences in this world. And I don't have to run up to Shamayim in order to receive the Torah. I can receive the Torah down here. What happens after Rabbi Nachman wakes up from this third vision of being finally ready to receive the Torah is that he finally gives his heart to his food and he sees that it's bread, and then he realizes, wait a second, this physical bread itself is just letters. That's the Kabbalah Satorah that Rebbe Nachman brings to us, the revelation that everything down here is letters. Not to run up there alone, not to only run into Chachma, but to live within Bina as well, to unify Chachma and Bina, to realize that yes, there's the Torah above this world, but then there's also the Osios within this world itself. And that new level of seeing the Osios in this world, seeing everything about being human, as the point in which I am going to reveal the light of the Torah, and that every step that I take is going to be another revelation of Torah, that's the new revelation of Kabbalah Satorah that Rebbe Nachman is bringing down, the Torah of this world, the Torah of Bina, the Torah of seeing the Lechem and seeing Osios in it. We tend to think that we have to take this world and bring it up. Over here, Rebbe Nachman is showing that no, we're taking up there and drawing it down here. That Moshe Rabbeinu may have gone up on the mountain in order to ascend into the heavens, but what the final tzaddikim are doing is drawing the Torah down from the heavens and revealing it on earth. And that's the secret of the Kabbalah Satorah that Rebbe Nachman is bringing us. Letters everywhere. Letters everywhere. Letters in our food, letters in our friends, letters in our loved ones, to see osios. To see the fact that everything is ultimately a reflection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything is ultimately a reflection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence down here. Now, you might think that, okay, Rabbi Nachman is revealing this new Torah, so to say, of Bina, of finding God down here, in the bread itself, on the table itself, in being human itself, in being awake, not in a dreamlike state of being above, but down here in the wooden table and the food itself. So you might think that someone who's going to come and emphasize the Torah of Ani, the Torah of Bina, the Torah of Yagia, the Torah of effort, the Torah of ego, the Torah of being a human being in this world and seeing the letters and everything, we might think that that's now going to stand in contradistinction to the Torah of Chachma. And that's where the Talmidim come in. The Talmidim say, is this new Torah, this Torah of the Osios down here, where instead of running away from this world, we run deeper into this world to reveal the Torah. As Rebbe Nachman says, that there's learning Shor Shanagach HaSapar, and then there's experiencing Shor Shanagach HaSapar in the marketplace. So the Talmidim are asking, is this close or is this far? Meaning to say, is it up there like the old Torah, or is it close to us in a way that it's now relative to us in this world? And this is where Rebbe Nachman says that you have to know that there's one that is two and there's two that is one. When we're here, we're there, and when we're there, we're here. Echad shu shtayim. Echad shu shtayim is the giloi of that it's both at the same time. It's the radical secret that it's above and below at once. Chachma and Bina at once. Rebbe Nachman is not, God forbid, moving away from the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu, from the Torah of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, from the Torah of the Arizal, nor from the Torah of Rabbeinu Habal Shem Tov HaKadosh. Haraya is that Likutei Moharan starts off with a love song about Moshe. It starts off with a teaching about Rabbi Shimon. The first set of teachings are on the Maisim of Rabba Bar Chana rooting himself in Chazal. Then the teachings go to Saba de Beyasuna rooting himself in Chazal, drawing out the Torah of his grandfather, the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. Rabbi Nachman is fundamentally rooted in the Old Torah, so to say, the Old Torah which is in Shemayim. But the added chiddush is that the final expression of the Torah in Shemayim is the Torah of the Aretz, the Torah down here. That's what Rabbi Nachman is coming to teach. Rabbi Nachman is coming to give us access to the ability to be above and below at once, to realize that there's echad shu shtayim. There's one Torah, and that Torah can express itself in two places, above in Chachma and below in Bina, above in Ayin and below in Ani. Why? Because Rabbi Nachman is rooted in the Torah of Keser. He's giving us the Keser of the Torah. He's giving us the Aleph of the Torah. And the Aleph of the Torah combines above and below. It has Chachma and Bina within it at the very same time. Chidush kamoni lo haya me'olam is because until Rabbi Nachman, it was either above or a person was below. But to be a gesher tsar ma'od ma'od, to be a very narrow bridge between above and below, which reveals that it's both above and below at the same time. Echad shu shtayim, shtayim shu echad. When he's here, he's there, and when he's there, he's here. Echad shu shtayim is that there's one thing, which is the light of Keser, and it can express itself in two ways, above in Chachma and below in Bina. Shtayim shu echad is the fact that the Torah above is Chachma, the Torah below is Bina, and those two things are one. When a person is here, when they're at the level of the Torah of Bina, engaged in the osios of this world, with their children, with their spouses, with their work, with their traffic jams, with the Torah of this worldliness, they're also there. They're above in Chachma. And when they're there, when they're up there in Chachma, they're also here. They're down here in Bina. This is the radical secret of Rabbi Nachman's approach to the entirety of his Skalas HaTorah, that it's through the light of Bina. It's the Torah of finding the osios in day-to-day experience, where the bread itself becomes the letters, where the walking itself becomes the letters, where the marketplace itself becomes the letters. Everything becomes letters. And it's not at the detriment of living in the Torah of Chachma, Ilah, and living in Shemayim. It's both at the same time. Echad shu shtayim. The Rebbe Shlita has obviously shown this to be the secret of Uman and Yerushalayim. Uman is the place of Bina, Yerushalayim is the place of Chachma. And that could very well be why Rabbi Nachman is saying, wait to see what happens with this, because this story is becoming the bedrock of understanding the importance of a kibbutz in Uman and a kibbutz in Yerushalayim. Echad shu shtayim, Chachma and Bina, above and below at once. The revelation of Chachma and the concealment of Bina. But for us, what it means is that we have to be able to live in both places at once. A person who's only receiving the Torah on a level of Chachma is going to be frustrated any time they encounter any experience of Bina. A person who thinks that the only Torah to be found is a Torah of Bina, they're never going to want to jump up to Chachma. The balancing act is holding both at once. This paradox of paradoxes, Echad Shehu Shtayim. This is what Rebbe Nachman was revealing to us. Nishmasi Pella Gadol. A Pella is a wonderment. It's the ability to hold two sides of experience at the same time, above and below at once. And in fact, Chazal hint to this. Chazal teach us what? Chazal see that by Atzeres Kuli Alma Moidim Deboi Lachem. That on any other yontif, there's sometimes a question as to whether it's only for God or it's for us. But when it comes to Matan Torah, it's fundamentally clear that it's for God and it's for us. Because the truth of the Torah is that it's above and below at once. The secret of the Torah is that it's the Kav of Or Ein Sof, which attaches the highest place to the lowest place. And in this low place, the osios are the lowest thing. The osios are the afar, the osios are the engravings and the shapes. But it's specifically within the engravings and the shapes of what we encounter in our day-to-day lives down here in the territory of Bina, where we have the ability to reveal to HaKadosh Baruch Hu the new Torah that we're giving him, a Torah that only we're capable of receiving. That's the secret of the Matan Torah for Rabbi Nachman, to draw the Torah all the way down into the territory of Bina. This is what Rav Avram ben Rav Nachman said. Rabbi Nachman's avodah was the derech of Bina. The derech of Bina is the yagia, the effort, the processing, the engraving, the digging, all of the the work of imagination and fighting the Yetzer Hara and utilizing the Yetzer Hara and using imagination. That's the Torah of Rebbe Nachman, the path of Bina. One of the reasons that there was a snagdus against Rebbe Nachman, as we can understand, is to show the Torah and the osios of the Lechem, what's going to be with the Torah of above, what's going to be with Chachma. Most tzaddikim who operate in the space of Chachma, where they're only above, they can't understand tzaddikim of the level of Bina. Because a tzaddik on the level of Chachma operates like Moshe Rabbeinu on top of the mountain in the world of Atzilus. And Atzilus cannot tolerate the worlds of constriction or concealment. They can't. That doesn't compute. It's either unified or separate, but to be unified within separation, that's unfathomable. So when tzaddikim on the level of Chachma, who just wanted absolute bittul, absolute shamayim, when they saw tzaddikim on the level of Bina, who are beginning to draw the Torah down to the Aretz, they become very afraid. Why? Because Chachma sees itself as being guard over the true nature of bittul, where the ego is going to get out of the way. And to see someone who's saying, no, let me use ani, let me use my ego, so to say, let me use my human nature, let me use myself in avodas Hashem, what they're going to say is, what do you mean? You can't fall into the worlds of concealment. You fall into the worlds of concealment, you're going to get stuck in the worlds of concealment. And so there's always a hisnagdus. There's always been a hisnagdus of tzaddikim on the level of Chachma and tzaddikim on the level of Bina. Because tzaddikim on the level of Chachma, who feel that the Torah can only be in Shemayim, they see tzaddikim on the level of Bina and they're afraid, because if you get stuck in Bina, you might be trying to get to Keser, but ultimately what you're likely going to find is Kares, which is the same osios as Keser. So the tzaddikim on the level of Chachma were always very weary of the tzaddikim on the level of Bina. But the truth of the matter is that any tzaddik, especially Rebbe Nachman, that's going down into the realm of Bina to reveal the Torah, it's not because we're leaving the Torah of Chachma, but it's because, like we've said in nearly every shiur, the descent away from Chachma, the descent away from Shemayim, the descent away from the base medrash of the mind, into the territory of lived experience, into the territory of constriction and concealment and struggle, even though it looks like it's a descent and it looks like it's a degradation, and why in the world would I want to be looking at a piece of bread when I can be learning Torah? But the truth of the matter is that the descent into Bina is only there to go back up into Chachma and then even higher than Chachma. Because when Chachma is alone, it can't imagine the light of Hashem being found in Bina. But once Bina goes down from Chachma, and it goes down and it shows that the light of Hashem could be found there also, it goes back up into Chachma, and it says all of this separation, all of this worldliness, all of the self, the ani that you felt is so polar opposite to the ayin, is in truth also a place where we can find HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But that's not all that happens. It's not just that Bina descends from Chachma and then Bina goes back up to Chachma to say, hey, look, Chachma, I proved you wrong. I could also tolerate myself in Bina. The truest secret is that Bina goes back up into Chachma, and now it forces Chachma to reveal something even more of itself. It reveals Keser. It goes into the inner essence of what Chachma is, which is the inner essence of Keser. Because before the descent, all the Torah could do was function on a level of Chachma. It was in Shamayim. I had to fast. I had to eat man. I had to bleed. I had to go through the Nahar Dinor. I had to empty myself out. But now that I see that I can see the Torah also in the lechem, I could see the Torah in the food that I'm eating. I could see the Torah in the experiences that I'm going through. I could see the Torah in my relationships. I can see the Torah in my frustrations. Once I bring that awareness back into that original awareness of Chachma, what I'm saying is, look, you thought that going down into constriction would be a loss of Chachma. I'm coming back to show you that I have even greater news to tell you, that the same level of infinitude that's found in Chachma is also found in Bina. And when that becomes clear to Chachma, Chachma is forced to reveal that it comes from a place higher than itself, which is Keser. So the tzaddikim of Chachma, they're terrified of the tzaddikim of Bina, but the tzaddikim of Bina are trying to show the tzaddikim of Chachma, no, we're just trying to extend the territory of Chachma. And so this is what, on one element, what was going on with Rebbe Nachman and the Shpoler Zeide. The Shpoler Zeide is a Torah of Chachma. The Shpoler Zeide was like the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. He just wanted Nisim. He just wanted everything to be good. There was no tolerance for suffering. He said, Hashem, the Jews are struggling. That's because you hide yourself and you reveal your Yetzer Hara. Hide your Yetzer Hara, reveal yourself, everything will be good. He took HaKadosh Baruch Hu to court, Kavyachol. He took HaKadosh Baruch Hu to court basically with the claim that an Eved Ivri, even if they are not following through with their tasks, that the owner of the Eved Ivri still has a responsibility to feed the wife and children. That was what the Shpoler Zeida's argument was, this very strange, powerful gathering of all of the tzaddikim where they weren't allowed in or out, of bringing HaKadosh Baruch Hu to din. And the Shpoler Zeida had alumnus, and he said, even if you want a taina, that the Baal, the owner, only has to support the husband, the wife, and the children of the Eved when the Eved is accomplishing the Ratzon of the master. Shpoler Zeida says, what's the reason we're not able to accomplish the Ratzon of you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu? You hide yourself. Stop hiding yourself, and then we won't have a problem. The Shpoler Zeida was a Bal Moifes Gamor. The Shpoler Zeida didn't want to come down into this world. His neshama was above for a long time. The Baal Shem Tov had to drag his neshama down. Baal Shem Tov came to the inn of the Shpoler Zeida's father, who was a descendant of the Maharal, and because of the kindness that he showed to the Baal Shem Tov, he promised that he would have a son, the neshama of the Maharal would come back down. And when the Shpoler Zeida was growing up, he came down, and he came close to Rav Pinchas Karitzer, and Rav Pinchas Karitzer said, I want to bring you to the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. I want to bring you to the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. When he came to the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, the Shpoler Zeida said, it's you. It's the man with the shovel. The man with the shovel. And the Shpoler Zeida explained that before he came down, he didn't want to come down. They wanted to bring him down again, and he didn't want to come down until he saw a man with a shovel that says, what are you still doing up here? What are you still doing up here? Until suddenly he realized that that person that he saw in Shemayim telling his soul that it had to come down was the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. The Shpoler Zeida was in Himmel. He wanted to be in Shemayim. He wanted to help Yidden. Well, that's all he wanted. He was Chachma. That's all he wanted. But Chachma knows that there's something more than Chachma. Something more than Chachma. There's Pnimius of Chachma. And Pnimius of Chachma is Pnimius of Atik, which is the secret of Keser. But the only way we get there is by Chachma differentiating itself and descending down below itself into the element of Bina, where the resistance against that bittul of Chachma takes shape. And then when that resistance and that Bina comes back up into Chachma, there's a unity of Pnimius Chachma, Pnimius Atik. The Rebbe Shlita has said that the entire thing was that the Shpoler Zeida was Chachma, and he understood that the real essence that needs to be revealed is the innermost quality of Chachma, which is above and below at once, and that could only take place by way of a tzaddik who can descend down into Bina properly. But no tzaddik has been able to descend down into Bina properly because it's a treacherous territory. And in order to ensure that the neshama of Rabbeinu could come down properly, the Shpoler Zeida was willing to act as if he had his snugness against Rabbeinu, even though he understood that the entire process was for Bina to go back up into Chachma and to reveal Pnimius Chachma, Pnimius Atik, above and below at once. And so we see that there's a Maisa where the Shpoler Zeida also has a Kabbalah Satorah, but it's a different type of Kabbalah Satorah. Rabbeinu's Kabbalah Satorah is the Kabbalah Satorah of Bina, seeing the Torah down here in the Osios. The Shpoler Zeida also had the koyach to bring the Torah again because he was in cahoots with Rabbeinu. They were always operating together. The spider and the fly are together. Chachma and Bina are always together. Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef. But the Shpoler Zeida had a different path. He was the path of Chachma. And so here's the story. Hearing the Aseret Adibros, right? The Hasidim of the Shpoler Zeida would relate the following story every year during the Milchig meal on the first day of Shavuos. One of the villages close to Shpoler belonged to a paritz who relished in his ability to embitter the lives of his subjects. And he took a special delight in doing so to the Jewish ones. During the winter months, he lived in the capital city where they lived in peace. However, at the outset of spring, he would reside in his mansion, and the Jews dreaded his return because they would then become the source of his entertainment. Quite often, he would want to entertain his fellow noblemen, and he would demand that a Jew be brought in wearing his talis and tefillin to sing and dance before his friends. His guests would join him in mocking and laughing at the Jew. Other times, if a Jewish family fell behind in their rental payments, he would throw them into a cellar and watch them suffer until the Jewish community had gathered the money that was necessary to bail them out. Each year, he'd come up with a new way to ridicule and harass the Yidden. One year, he decided to really get to them. He decreed that all of the taverns must be open for business on Shabbos, and that a statue of a Christian religion must be found in every establishment. These and other similarly harsh decrees were too much for the Jews to bear. They came to the Zeide, beseeching him to arouse Hashem's compassion on their behalf and have these decrees rescinded. That's the koyach of Chachma, a moifes. We don't need to go into the complications of Bina. Give us a moifes. The Zeide heard their cry and felt their pain. He said, I waited long enough for him to treat the Jews properly. It's time to show him how to behave. He's going to hear the Aser Sadibros. He then said to his villagers, go and tell this Paritz and tell him that this year, instead of all of you going to the large city for the holiday of Shavuos, as you usually do, you're going to celebrate it here in this village. And that you're honoring the honorable Paritz and his friends and the other noblemen and their families to see the Jewish prayer service. I will come, said the Zeda, and arrange a chazan and someone who will read the Torah. Additionally, just as the Jewish people purified themselves for 3 days before receiving the Torah at Har Sinai, you should all purify yourselves for 3 days as well. When the Paritz heard this, and knowing how much his fellow noblemen enjoyed watching an individual Jew singing and dancing while wrapped up in his talis, he figured it would really delight them to watch the entire community pray, and he jubilantly invited all of the nobility for this festivity. The Zeda arrived in the village before Shavuos. He told his villagers to inform the Paritz that since a large cloud was expected, in order to accommodate everyone, the services would take place on top of the hill next to the nearby forest. He also gave them a canopy and instructed them to erect it on the hilltop before Yontif, as that is where they would read the Torah. The day of Shavuos arrived, and that morning the Paritz entertained his guests in his mansion and then announced, now will be the highlight of today's festivities. We will be entertained by the entire Jewish community singing and praying. Arriving at the hill, they smiled with mirth as the Zeda, wrapped in his talis that reached the floor, walked to the Amud and began to daven. They were surprised and mesmerized by how powerful and pleasant the old man's voice was. It was indeed a pleasure to hear. This was truly a unique entertainment. When he said the words Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad, Chochma, his voice thundered like a lion dafka. He was a lion. And the smirks were erased from their faces. Instead, they all began trembling in awe and fear. When he began repeating Shemona Esrei out loud, their fear became so powerful that they began feeling faint. Nevertheless, some of the noblemen put on brave faces as if they weren't affected. The Zeide then honored one of the people who had come with him, a man with a majestic and handsome appearance, to read the Torah. One of the members of the community stood next to the Paritz and explained that this was being said in the prayers in the Torah. Although it was a beautiful summer day with a pleasant breeze, when the person began reading the Aser Sadibros, lightning flashed and thunder pealed. The noblemen were overcome with tremendous fright. Hearing the first 2 commandments and their translation, that there is only one God and that one should not have a statue or other gods, the Paritz was overcome with fear and remorse. How could I have decreed that the Jews place statues in their houses, he thought. Similarly, when he heard the 4th commandment to keep the Shabbos, he regretted decreeing that all businesses remain open on Shabbos. He felt as if he was gasping for air. These thoughts of remorse kept repeating themselves upon hearing each of the 10 commandments. Their meaning, their message, penetrated the minds of the Paritz and his friends, and they realized the dreadfulness of their decrees against the Jews. At the same time, the noblemen were all baffled. While the words were being said in a foreign language, they felt it was unnecessary to listen to the translation. Somehow they understood exactly what was being said. When he concluded reading the Torah, many of the noblemen fainted, and all of them resolved to treat their Jewish subjects with respect and dignity. They were ashamed of their previous actions, and they respectfully left. At the conclusion of davening, a large meal was served to the entire community. The people noticed that the person who had read the Torah was not present. Seeing their bewilderment, the Zeda explained that the Torah reader was really exceptional. I requested that Moshe Rabbeinu himself read the Torah, he said. And then he added, this Paritz has within him a spark of Yisro, and that's been waiting to be rectified. After Yontif, the Paritz requested that the Zeda come to him, and they engaged in a private discussion for several hours. Needless to say, the Paritz changed his attitude completely. He instructed the Jews to build a synagogue on the hilltop, saying that he would pay for all the expenses involved in building it. Shpoler Zeide also brought down another Kabbalah Torah, but it had to be Moshe Rabbeinu. Because the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu, the Torah on the level of Bittul and Chachma, it's through the light of Moshe. It's through the light of Moshe. And it's through the typical orientation of Bittul Muchlatas. You need Moshe Rabbeinu to come down. Only a Moshe Rabbeinu who knows how to eat man. Only a Moshe Rabbeinu who knows how to be on high. That's the Kabbalah Torah of the Shpoler Zeda. To be in Chachma, to be mamtik all dinim b'sharashim, without descending down into the territory of Bina. But what Rabbeinu says is that draw it down, bring it down into the letters, bring it down into the food, bring it down into every aspect of yourself, bring it down into a Torah of a derech eretz shekadma Torah, Eretz Yisrael mamish, not just chachma, but down in this world itself to reveal the Torah in this world, to see the letters in every step that a person takes. And it's through these two givings of the Torah of Chachma that the Shpoler Zeide is revealing, and the Torah of Bina that Rebbe Nachman is giving us, that we'll be able to live in that secret of Echad Shuhu Shtayim, one that is two, two that is one, Chachma and Bina together, revealing the Pele Elyon, revealing that Keser, which is my ability and what it means on a practical level. To be okay whatever I'm doing. When I'm learning Torah, I'm learning Torah. When I'm with my kids, I'm learning the Torah of being with my kids. When I'm in traffic, I'm learning the Torah of what it means to be a Yid in traffic. And traffic is made up of letters, and I'm made up of letters, and the car is made up of letters. And seeing the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed everywhere. This is the secret. If the Torah is the kav of the Or Ein Sof, as the Rashash points out, the Torah is the re-entrance of the infinite light into existence. Torah Hashem Tamima. It's perfect and it will always be perfect even after everything has been said. So if it's the Kav, and the Shemin Sasson asked the Ben Ish Chai when he left Baghdad, he said, how do I find the Rebbe? How do I find the Rebbe in Yerushalayim? And what the Ben Ish Chai said was, anybody who could explain to you properly what this Torah, what this Rashash means, that the Torah itself is the Kav, so they're worthy of being your Rebbe. We know, the Leshem says and the Rebbe Rashab says, that ultimately the Kav stopped in the middle of reality. It didn't go all the way down to the bottom, because if it went all the way down to the bottom, there would be no difference between above and below. There would be no difference between Chachma and Bina, Shemayim and Aretz. But we also know that in the future, the Kav is going to be yored all the way down to the bottom of the Halal. And so if the Kav is going to be yored down to the bottom of the Halal to reveal that the bottom is as equally close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as the top, then our generation is the generation that's revealing the Torah of the Osios in this world, where everywhere we go, every aspect of our lives is being lived with Osios, Asvand Araisa, the Chaf Beis Osios HaTorah. Everywhere, in the food that we eat, when we pause to sim lave to our food. What's the lave? The lave is Bina. At first, Rebbe Nachman thought to sim lave to the Torah means bring it back up to Chachma. But now he understands that the sim lave to the Torah is to give your heart to it. The lave maven, the Torah of Bina. This is the entirety of Rebbe Nachman's Torah, to draw the Torah of Chachma, of the Shpoler Zeda, and to draw the Torah of Bina, which is his Torah, together to reveal the Torah of the Osios. The first Torah in Likutei Moharan is this. There's the light of Chachma, the Ches, but the light of Chachma is too much to receive at once, and it has to be transitioned through concealment, the Nun, which is Bina, which is Malchus, because Bina is Malchus to Chachma. And when we can join together the Ches and the Nun, and we have Chen, it gives us a Tav. The Tav, which is an engraving, a real life experience, the Torah of the Sha'ashuim, the Torah of engravings, Tavisa Tav, the lowest place, that's where we reveal the Aleph. Because as the Heilige Baal Shem Tov teaches us, that really we might think that there's an Aleph and there's a Tav. The Aleph is Chachma and the Tav is Bina. But in truth, there's only Aleph. There's one Aleph, two Alephs, three Alephs, four Alephs, all the way down to 400 Alephs. And that revelation of seeing the Torah down here in our own experiences, of learning how to be lamdanim in every experience of our lives. What lamdis do I need to find the ability to be calm in this conversation? What lamdis, what svara do I need? What acharon, what rishon do I need in order to figure out how to not get upset right now? That's the Torah of Bina. When we can uncover that secret of Echad Shu Shtayim, Shtayim Shu Echad, above and below at once, and realize that they're both two elements of a singular light of Keser Elyon Alav Nikra, so in that place we become Chelim Re'uyim to receive the Torah no matter what. Above the mountain, on top of the mountain, below the mountain, when I'm above, when I'm below, when I'm in a state of Yira, when I'm in a state of Ahava. If we only take one side of it, we're going to get lost. We have to uncover the secret of both of them. And Be'ezras Hashem, that's the Sha'ashuin of the Torah. So on Kabbalah Satorah, what we're saying is we're really going to do it. Chatzi LaHashem and Chatzi Lachem. Not because any other reason other than both halves are needed. Chachma and Bina are both fundamentally needed in order to reveal the Torah of Atikas Dima'ah. Just as the Shpoler Zeide reveals the Torah of Chachma with bringing Moshe Rabbeinu down, so too Rebbe Nachman is able to reveal the Torah of Bina by seeing the Torah down here. And when we bring the Torah down here back up to the Torah of Moshe, we reveal the Torah of Keser Be'ezras Hashem. And that's why it's so necessary for our generation to see the Torah in every ounce of our lives and to believe in the unity of the Shpoler Zeide and Rebbe Nachman and all of the Tzaddikim Amitim and to draw down a Torah of Shalom, to draw down a Torah of Shalom. This Maisa, Rebbe Nachman said there's going to be a big schoik from the Maisa of the Shpoler Zeide and Rebbe Nachman. That it's going to be a schoik of La'asad Lavo that's going to come out of it. That Rebbe Nachman knew all along. He loved the Shpoler Zeide and the Shpoler Zeide loved Rebbe Nachman. And it's all rooted in the singular story of bringing out the Bina from within Chachma so that the Bina can then go back up into Chachma, but now it goes even higher and it reveals the light of Keser, Be'ezras Hashem.